Yeah, when you're feeling down and motivated in the midweek, we got the guys here to make your life complete. Little John, Brandon, Cody, Carly, they're coming in to keep you motivated all week. New episode, same time every week. Don't gotta wait long for the next one to release. So don't go away, sit down, take a seat, enjoy Midweek Motivation with John and Carly. Hey.
Midweek Motivation.
Let's go. What is up, Midweek Motivation crew? How we doing? I'm going to introduce you to my friend Brandon.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day. Brandon's going to be my Valentine for the next, 30, 40 minutes or so.
There we go.
I tried to get my wife to come on.
She was
tried
here.
Hard. She stood right there for like 20 minutes talking to us.
As soon as the countdown began, she was gone.
She was out.
She's like, I'm not getting roped into this.
Out quick. It was tough. And I'm going to go ahead and call out Mr. K. Mr. K, our KCA administrator, was going to join us today. And it's 2 weeks in a row that he's been too important to join us. I'm just going to call him out. Last week, so if you don't know, Mr. K is a former football coach. Last week we were talking about football, and I was going to have Mr. K come on and join us. Nothing. Too busy. Apparently running a school is, keeps you busy. And then this
Can't
week,
be much
again,
into that, though, is it? I mean, you wouldn't think.
You wouldn't think. It's just giving detention to kids. It's let's see, lots of detention. At least that was my experience with my administrator at school. Did you ever get detention at school?
Detention? Quite a few times.
Yeah. See, me too.
I was the kid that walked up to the line, but I never crossed it. So it was just one of those things that, just detention.
I've probably got some teachers that are surprised I didn't spend more time in detention. But actually, I've probably got some teachers that are surprised I didn't spend like any time in jail.
I think I may have had my own desk in detention.
That's pretty solid.
Had one there for me. All my class books already. That wasn't that bad.
We had to write sentences in detention. And it was a little Christian school, so we had to write Bible verses and things. It was great stuff.
We had, we would do our work. And of course, I actually graduated with honors, pretty smart guy. And I would finish all my work and I'm like, yeah, I got them. Right. They would write something on the board and you'd have to just keep writing it until the day was over. It was miserable.
So like Bart Simpson.
Yeah.
Was doing all
That's
the
what it always reminded me of.
Well, hey, you didn't tune in to listen to us talk about our escapades in, elementary, middle school, and high school.
I don't know how we got there.
I don't know how we got there either. It's Mr. K's fault.
Yeah.
If Mr. K was here, that wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
Right? He would have kept us on track. Well, hey, welcome to Midweek Motivation, real conversations with real people about a very real God. If you're not already a part of our group, we'd love for you to text MOTIVATE to 540-900-3838. That puts you in our group. You can share prayer requests, and somebody in the team will pick that up and pray for you. If the other thing that you can text about, speaking of texting, right? So today is Ash Wednesday.
Ash Wednesday.
Right? So we started a thing called 40 Days to the Cross. I want to say it started last year. I'm just going to say it started last year.
I think last year was the first year we did it. Yeah.
So it's something that we like to do that leads right up to Lent. And you'll get a text every single day. And I'm gonna try the church phone number, and I'm gonna say it wrong. So if I say it wrong, correct me. But it's 540-342-3968. I think that's right, but I didn't write it down, so I could be wrong.
It might be. You don't have it in the notes. So.
I didn't put it in the notes, so I'm just gonna say I think that's right. So if I'm wrong, somebody correct me in the chat, or just Google it.
Yeah.
Right. We don't need to remember phone numbers anymore.
Parkway Church on the Mountain.
Right? We're there. Yeah. You can find us. It's not that hard. But if you want to text CROSS to 540-342-3968, I'm 90% sure that's right. That'll put you in the group. You might be too late, but we'll do our best because it did start today. But what we'll do is we'll send you a little text with a devotional every single week or every single day of those 40 days leading right up to Easter, right? Which I'm excited about Easter. I hope you're excited about Easter. Easter was a huge day for us last year.
Man.
We had just started coming to Parkway about Easter time last year and
tell you,
blown away.
I think I had one of the coolest seats in the building. I've got a job I do on Easter Sunday, and I was sitting in the front row at one spot, and somebody came up and they're like, hey, are these seats taken? I'm like, no, go ahead and take them. So I moved somewhere else, and then somebody else comes up, hey, are these seats taken? I ended up having to sit backstage.
Oh, yeah.
And it was cool just to be able to look out and see from the front of the sanctuary to the back and all the way to the roof. It was one of the coolest things I've seen. I took pictures back there of it. It was so awesome.
It was a good time. So we're looking forward to another good, big, full Easter service. I just know we almost had to delay the service because people were still coming up the hill, right, trying to find parking.
Oh, we brought in metal chairs. I mean, anything that we can find somebody could sit on, it got brought into the sanctuary.
Courtney and I actually sat in the cafe for like the first 30 minutes of service because there was no room.
Yeah.
And it was great. It was a good time. So we're making some plans this year.
We're going to be a little more prepared, but if we still have to bring out more chairs, we'll bring out more chairs.
We got some good backup plans.
Yeah.
We got plenty of chairs in the building. As the guy that gets to count all the chairs in the building, I'm going to tell you, we got plenty of chairs in the building. So be ready for Easter, whatever day Easter is. It's on your calendar. But today is Ash Wednesday.
Well, it's 40 days from
It's 40. Well,
today.
So technically 46 days. So
is it 46?
I was doing some research, and we'll get into
right.
this a little bit later. But today starts a season of Lent.
Yeah.
And, like any good researcher, I did some real hardcore research and Googled Lent.
I'm pretty sure I know this, and I should have known it, but 46 days.
It is 46 days because Sundays don't count.
Yep, Sundays don't count.
Sundays don't count. So before we get into Lent and some of the other things that we're going to talk about today, we did a contest giveaway last week. I say we, but we collectively, as the Midweek Motivation crew, we did a contest because we'd been sitting at 499 subscribers on YouTube for far too long, right? So we went ahead and did giveaway, and I just said the next person that subscribes, the 500th subscriber, gets a free drink from the cafe. Well, lo and behold, it turns out it was my father-in-law in Pennsylvania. So, Paul, you have to come visit, and you do get a free drink from the cafe when you come to visit. So next time you're in town, make sure you come to church and, come to the cafe. He's a pastor, so if he comes to town, he's kind of got to come to church, right?
Got to.
You get a free drink from the cafe. So I looked too. We're actually at 501 subscribers on YouTube. So somebody tried. Just laughing too because Susan last week, she commented when I announced that, she's like, if I unsubscribe and resubscribe, does it count?
Well, that still leaves us at $4.99.
Right. But I applaud the effort.
Yeah.
I like the thought. That was great. So what's going on, John Brunk? Brandy, what's going on? Yes, we all love Mr. K. Everybody loves Mr. K. Benny and Michelle, how we doing? We got Susan. We got the whole family. We got Jody. We got Ashley. What's going on? Jody says Easter was amazing last year, standing room only, 100%. And we're hoping it's more people, but less standing room.
Yes.
If that makes sense. So lots of good things. So there's some cool things coming up we want you to know about. So like we talked about, 40 Days of the Cross starts today. So if you're already getting those texts, make sure you plug in and are part of those and let that be, kind of your devotional, right? Use that. That'll be, that's kind of a cool thing when we've got the whole church kind of thinking on one topic, for an entire 40 days. I always love the unity in that.
It's so cool, especially what it's leading up to. So,
hey Austin, what's going on? The other cool thing that's coming up, something called Parkway Off the Mountain. That's this week, isn't it?
Yeah, that's such a cool thing that she's getting together and doing.
Mm-hmm.
It is such a cool thing to just get off the mountain and go out into the community and help collectively, again, as you say, unity as a church.
We were talking about it. I was trying to get Megan to be on today. I think it was on the text our text chain this morning. We're like, who's all going to be on the show today? And Megan's like, well, I'm in Florida. So, Megan, hope you're enjoying Florida. Enjoy the beach for us
And the nice weather.
Yeah, and the nice weather. It's like 40 degrees here.
Yeah.
But not rainy.
Well, it's not rainy. It's a little gloomy, but
it is a little gloomy, but it's nice inside. But that's coming up, Parkway Off the Mountain. If you want to know more about it, you can go to parkroanoke.com/off the mountain. What are the odds, right? Easy thing to figure out. We are serving at Straight Street. There's a whole lot of opportunities to get involved. There's an opportunity for everybody to do something, right? No matter, what you're physically able to do or what your schedule is, there's some way that you can be a part of it. So even if it's just to pray during those couple of days, so it's the 19th through the 24th, several ways you can be involved. So you can go to parkroanoke.com/off the mountain to be a part of that. I'd give you more details, but that's what I know. So, and that's what's in my notes. So that's what we're going to go with. But if you go there, you'll find a whole lot more about it, or you can text 540-900-3838 and we'll find you more information if you have questions about
Absolutely.
it. The other cool thing that's coming up is we like to do concerts, right?
Yeah.
So Matthew West, so one of the biggest names in Christian music history for the past, I don't know. He's not, I was going to say 30 years, but I don't think he's quite that old.
Decade or two?
I would say at least
2 decades.
I would give him 20 years.
Yeah.
We won't call out his age.
This is the crazy thing. Like I feel like I'm a pretty good insider on inside knowledge on what's happening at the church. Had no clue
Missed that
about
one.
this one. I don't know why.
This is what
crazy.
happens
I love
when you
Matthew
miss
West.
midweek for a couple weeks.
Yeah.
We just leave you out of the know for
I'm going to have to smooze up to somebody so I can get in here for that one. I love Matthew West.
I mean, we are taking volunteers. I will tell you, if you do want to come, the tickets might be sold out. They're close if they're not completely sold out. So if you go to parkroanoke.com, it's somewhere on the website. You can find tickets there. Or if you just Google Matthew West and Roanoke, you'll find it. But that's coming up March 16th.
I know a guy.
You know, guy. We do have some room for volunteers. So if you are interested in volunteering, you can text the number on the screen and we'll help you get plugged in and volunteering. We always need people for helping load stuff in and load stuff out, especially loading stuff out.
The behind the scenes stuff.
Behind the scenes stuff. And it's a great way to get into concerts for free. And we feed you most of the time. So don't hold me to it.
Most of the time.
Well, I always want to give that asterisk and caveat because I don't want to be held to it because I'm not the one that responsible.
Depends on how much money we're getting from whoever. If there's any left over, we'll throw you some scraps.
All depends on those ticket sales. So, but make sure you tell people about it. Get your tickets if you're interested. Matthew West always puts on a great show. I've seen him a couple times.
Yep.
And he's a cool dude. If half the stories I've heard about him are true, then you want to come. I think there's still some VIP tickets where you get to meet him. So make sure you plug in and are a part of that. So Sunday was a good day. This is my shameless, awkward transition.
Yeah. So me and my family went out of town this weekend. A little quick getaway for the kids that we got them for Christmas, and we weren't able to make it Sunday. So.
Well, it was a good day. So, obviously you're going to go back and watch it, like everybody else can go back and watch, service online, parkroanoke.com, and you can catch up on service there. But it was a good day. A lot of people in the house. Pastor was talking about our second week in our series, All I Need Is More Money, which I was thinking about this morning. I'm just going to say they planned it this way, but I'm not a part of these discussions, so I'm just going to assume they did. But what an interesting thing to talk about right before we get into our Lenten, or right as we get into our Lenten season, about, denying yourself, but we're talking about money.
Yeah.
Right. What a fun thing to talk about. And, one of the things that really stuck out to me that I think was real impactful, at least for people in the house and hopefully online as well. But Pastor was given this illustration, and you need to go back and watch it because he tells it way better than I'm about to. But he was talking about, stewardship and, giving of your finances and proper biblical stewardship. And one of the illustrations he gave was, having McDonald's with his daughter. And he reached over and, was taking one of her fries. And, she was not okay with that, right? As all young children are not. Maybe your kids are better about sharing their food with you.
My kids are pretty good. Me, on the other hand, I am with my kids, but, we'll stop at McDonald's and I'll get fries. Honey, do you want anything? No, I'm good. Then she puts her hands in my fries and I'm like, I just asked you if you wanted some fries.
You had the opportunity. I would have bought you your own fries.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Which is basically what Pastor experienced.
Let's forget this is. I just forgot it's Valentine's Day.
It is Valentine's
so I
Day.
apologize for that, honey. If you're watching,
and I won't
didn't
call
mean
out
it.
that my wife does the exact same thing. I wouldn't say that, right? Because I wouldn't say that, especially on Valentine's Day, right? Dear?
Exactly.
That would be a wrong thing to say. But that's essentially what Pastor was getting at. And he said, in his mind, his thought was, "Don't you know who I am? Like,
Right.
who got you those fries in the first place?" And number two, he said, "Don't you know that I could walk up to that counter, slap $100 bill on the counter, and bury you in fries?" Right? Like, I'm your dad, and one, I got you these fries. This is where your fries came from. Every one of these fries came from me. Number two, if I wanted you to have some fries, like, I would bury you in fries, right? I could do that because I'm your dad. And that's what God says to us. That's essentially what God is saying. If you go to Malachi 3, that's essentially what God is saying.
Yeah.
It's the only place, Caesar and I were talking about this on the post show. It's the only place in Scripture that we can find where God says, "All right, try me.
Try me. Yep.
Test me."
Yeah.
Right? It says, "Test me in this and see if I won't open up the floodgates of heaven or open up the windows in heaven and pour out so much blessing that you can't even contain it." Right? So Pastor talked about what he's talked about, I think, for many, many years, something called God's guarantee. And there's more information on it. If you go to parkroanoke.com/God's guarantee, I think there's a dash in there somewhere. You'll find it. It's in there. You know how to work the internet. I trust. I know you know how to find a website.
You can find us on the internet. You can find that on the internet.
You could find it, but
but the God's guarantee cards have been around. We've been here probably close to, a little over 10 years, a little over a decade, and it's been around since I started coming here. So they've been around a while.
Yeah, and essentially what it is, if you're not sure what it is we are so confident as a church that God is going to honor what he says in his word and bless you if you're faithful in biblical stewardship. I won't go too deep into it because we don't have time for that, but if you don't feel blessed, right, after that 90 days, we'll give you the money back. Right? Because God's the one that takes care of us, not you. Right? Yeah. So God's taken care of Parkway Church for how many years? If you feel like you don't want to be a part of that, and if you feel like God's not holding up his end, we'll just give you your money back.
Yep.
Right?
No questions asked.
Right. No questions asked. All the details in that, that's for somebody else to decide. But we depend on God, not on money. Nope. Right? God's the one that makes stuff happen. So we're so confident that God's going to take care of his church. And we're so confident that he's going to hold up his end, right? And like he says in Malachi, that if you don't feel like he's done it, you can have your money back, right? Because we're not worried about your money, we're worried about obedience. Cody says in chat, "Those are my fries," and I can hear Cody screaming it. Go back and watch service, especially if nothing else. Just watch that part of the illustration; it's great. Pastor screaming about fries on stage was awesome. It was good times. Leslie, Sunday message was awesome. Oh, John Brunk will be here for load in for Matthew West. See, John Brunk's figured it out.
He has figured it out.
John Brunk knows. And I've decided, I don't know if you know this, I've decided I want to be John Brunk when I grow up.
John Brunk is such a genuine, amazing dude. Like, he is one of those guys that is just behind the scenes everywhere and really helps make this church run. And there's a ton of John Brunks at this church, but, he's a regular viewer, so I mentioned him. He's one of those guys that just... is what the church is about. Yeah. It's so cool to see.
Maybe we should get one of those shirts that's like WWJBD.
What would John Brown do?
We could put a little midweek motivation one on there. Or
that's what my bracelet is. What would John do?
Yeah. Can we just add the B in there?
It's actually what would Jesus do? I know that, people.
If you want to be all spiritual about it, sure, we could go that route. But, so this is what happens when Carly's not here.
Yeah.
This is a good rabbit trail. But, today is Valentine's Day, and, I was going back and forth and kind of, what we needed to talk about today. And Valentine's Day, I was like, well, we don't need to talk about Valentine's Day. It is Valentine's Day, men. If you're unclear, if you did not know, you should be getting your spouse, significant other, girlfriend,
Here's the thing.
wife,
And
mother.
I know I'm the king of going down rabbit hole, but me and my wife had to go to Walmart this morning to get Valentine's donuts for the kids' school. And so I drop her off at the front door, and I'm just sitting outside waiting because she was going to be in and out. And it was like 4 minutes. 7 guys came out with, flowers, chocolate, candy, their Valentine's gifts. I was just laughing. It was so funny.
Well, they did better than me. So Courtney and I, we can be transparent on the show. That's what it's about, right?
Yeah.
So Courtney and I were talking, I think it was Saturday or Sunday. And she looked at me, she's like, have you done anything for Valentine's Day? I was like, no. Have you? She's like, no. She's like, well, how about we just don't this year? All right, now I know all you men, I know exactly what you're thinking. That's a lie and that's code, right? And that doesn't mean you actually get out of Valentine's Day.
Right.
Not true, right? My wife, I'm believing and I'm trusting that was in earnest, okay? So now I will say transparently, we are going to go out to dinner tonight real quickly before church. So that's going to be our Valentine's Day. But gentlemen, remember that it is Valentine's Day and you should do something.
We've been married a long time, and I ordered her stuff on Amazon. I was like, hey, like a week ago, I'm like, hey, you want to see what I got you for Valentine's Day? She's like, sure. I mean, I've already given it to her and everything. So.
It's hard to keep a secret when you've been married that long.
It's one of those things.
When you've been married that long and you share everything, like, money.
Our bank accounts and everything sharing. I'm like, she's just going to be like, hey, what was this $20 for on Amazon?
Nothing.
I gotta say, like, I can't surprise you with it.
You'll find out on February the 14th. Yes, Judy, thank you. We do need to remember, we did send a missions team to Michigan this week. So they're doing some missions work in Michigan. So we want to keep praying for them.
Absolutely.
It's really cool to be a part of a church that sends people out. So we're sending people off the mountain to do work at Straight Street here this month. We sent people to Michigan. We had a team that just got back from Panama here a month ago. And then Pastor John's actually going to El Salvador this week, which I think he's on a plane like right now going to El Salvador.
That's a church that practices what they preach.
Right.
So that's so cool, man.
Well, let's get into our topic for today. Not only is it Valentine's Day, it is Ash Wednesday. Now, we're not a Catholic church. Yes, Jody, it is girl code. But I'm believing, Jody, if you see her, hold her accountable. I'm believing that she said we're doing nothing, right? So us going to dinner tonight real quickly before church is going to
So you got to
count.
run out for lunch and get flowers and put them in the trunk of your car just in case.
Just
in case.
But see, she hates flowers because they just die and make her sneeze.
Oh, well, you got to get a teddy bear, some chocolate or something. Just throw it in the trunk. She gets you something, pull it out.
That's pretty true. Although if I do it now, she's listening.
Yeah.
So
That's a good point.
although, see, so she is
Courtney,
on record.
disregard all that.
So she's on record. All she wants is dinner, right? So it's on the internet forever and ever. You'll be held accountable.
That's all you needed. You got an out right there, buddy. Good job.
That's the real reason I do this show. It's cheaper than counsel.
That's why we brought it up.
But today is the first day of Lent. It is Ash Wednesday. I did do some research because I was curious. 'Cause I like to learn things. Turns out, originally, Lent was only 36 days. There's some reasons that they changed it, but I stopped reading after I found the fact that it was only 36 days.
Huh.
I don't know why. It changed in 325 at the Council of Nicaea. Go read about it, Google it, read a couple different things because not everything on the internet is true.
Exactly.
But Lent is a season really of kind of denying yourself, right? That's the underlying reason behind it. And I'm just curious, and this is one of the reasons I wanted Mr. K to be on. Mr. K grew up a little bit differently than a lot of us, so he was going to share, which we'll get him on sometime in the future. Mr. K, I'm going to book you well in advance. With your publicist next time, but I'm curious, what was your experience of Lent and that kind of Lenten Ash Wednesday Easter time when you were growing up?
Well, I grew up not really in a church, but my grandparents would always take us to church like during the summertime and stuff like that. So. I had a little bit different of an upbringing with that, so I didn't really experience Lent until I was a little bit older. So growing up, I didn't even know what Ash Wednesday and Lent and all that stuff was.
Well, it sounds weird if you're not familiar
Right,
with it. It
right.
sounds weird. It's like, what about ashes?
Lent,
Like, are
yeah.
you smoking?
Yeah.
What?
Lent from the dryer? What?
Yeah,
What's
like
happening
you're
here?
supposed to throw that stuff away.
That's, you know,
it's not a holiday.
Right.
Yeah. So I grew up kind of the opposite. So I grew up in church from the time I was born. Like literally a week later after I was born, I was in church. Right. So, but I grew up really not understanding what Lent really was. So Lent for me was. It was about fasting, right? I know it's getting close to Easter, which in my church meant cantata time. We had, the crucifixion, and we had, all that good stuff too. But Lent for me was just kind of it was a very normal thing, right? But as you get older, you learn to understand things a little bit differently. And really, for me, what Lent has kind of become is it's not just a ritual thing of like, oh, it's time to figure out something to fast from or sacrifice or give up for Lent.
Right.
It's a time of really to ask that question of why are we fasting? Right. And that idea, the entire idea of fasting, at least kind of, where I'm kind of learning and changing my perspective on it is it's not so much about the actual act of fasting, right? It's the act of denying yourself something, right? I read a book. I read a book when I was in college by a guy named Brother Lawrence called "Practicing the Presence of God," and it's kind of weird book the way it's set up, but it's really a conversation that this guy had with a monk, right? So it's like translated in English because the monk didn't speak English. I'm pretty sure it was.
Are monks even allowed to speak?
I don't think so, but this one was, right? So some monks can speak.
Must have been a retired monk.
Well, yeah. So this is a Catholic monk, not like the orange robe things that you're, in the Himalayas that we're thinking of, but some movie I'm thinking, and I can't remember what it is right now. So if you know what movie I'm thinking of, put it in the
not
chat.
the rat from Ninja Turtles.
It's not. It was not.
Master
it is not
Splinter.
Pretty close, but he spoke English,
Right?
Right,
Yeah,
and I
that's
don't think he
true.
was Catholic, but the
Doubt it.
mark it down today. Master Splinter was not Catholic.
Yeah, I don't think it was holy water they were living in. I think that was sewer water. See why they don't invite me very much.
This is why Brandon's been gone for so long.
Anyway, sorry.
Still a drastic improvement over last week, though. I don't know if you watched last week, but I talked to myself for like 30 minutes, which was good fun.
It's hard to go in a rabbit hole when you're talking to yourself.
Well,
It'd be a little weird if you
I mean, I talk to myself frequently.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
But Lent is really more for me is become a time of using that fasting to remind me to put my mind on Jesus. So a lot of that came from that book, Practice of the Presence of God. You can Google it, Amazon, it's all in there. Or if you want to borrow mine, I'll give it to you because I read it. And, the interesting thing is he talks about fasting, and is one of the things that he devoted his life to is to constantly have his mind on Christ. And it doesn't sound that difficult. Like, oh, just think about Jesus all the time. It's like, maybe it's easier for other people, but my mind goes through so many things.
Yeah.
If you can't tell by our conversation already, like my mind goes through so many different things. And so one of the things he mentioned was fasting for him is a time where every time let's say he fasted a meal, every time that he felt hungry, that was a reminder to put his mind back on Jesus.
Right.
Right. And maybe fasting for you isn't a safe thing. Maybe it's not a healthy thing for you to skip a meal or do things like that. Right. We want you to be healthy, but whatever it is that, you're going to sacrifice or give up, the intent should be to spend that time praying and putting your mind on Christ.
Well, I think we get caught up in, we've done it as a life group. We've done it as a family. And this, one thing for me, when I became a Christian and the fasting and the Lent thing, it was something that I had to do. So like I would get rid of, say, soda, right? And I worked so hard on trying to get rid of soda, right? But I was missing the whole point of it. The point of it wasn't for me to get rid of soda. I mean, that's the underlying point of it. But, to really focus on my relationship with God. So when, like you said, when I was craving a soda, I would go into prayer, or I would just have a conversation with God and, just really strengthen that relationship with him. So for a long time, I was, even as an adult, was missing the point of fasting. And so it's
one of those things that's easy, especially if you've been in church for a while as an adult, to be like, oh yeah, that's, this is a thing that we do. Right. And I forget the reference, but pastor even called it out on Sunday. Jesus was talking to the Pharisees and talking about the law, and he essentially called them out and said, "You're too focused on the law, right? You're focused on the duty and the ritual, and not focused on the spirit of the law."
right.
The line is you've neglected the former. Right, and focused on the whatever. Go back and watch it.
Right,
it was better. It sounded way better coming out of pastor's mouth.
That's right, he's a pastor, man.
That's why he's the boss, right? But that's essentially what Jesus is getting at. Is we get so focused a lot of times on the ritual of it.
Right.
Even just coming to church on Sunday, right? And if you've been in church for any length of time, you know pretty much how church is going to go, right? I like to think we're pretty darn good at Parkway about our services, right? But you kind of know what's going to happen in our services.
I will say, Parkway hit me in the gut every quite often, actually, because you just feel like what's going to happen. And a couple Sundays ago when we were baptizing people, man, the one kid, I had tears running down my face. I didn't know what to do. I was like, I hope nobody's watching.
I hope there's no camera on me right now.
So, man, it's just so cool here sometimes. But 100%, I think you're right. I think we just get, we've even had it in, like I said, in life group, and somebody's like, oh man, I had a dessert yesterday, and I was supposed to be off desserts for the 21 days or whatever it was. And it's like, well, we're kind of missing the point here, because it doesn't matter if you actually, failed one day or whatever it is. Right. That's not the whole point of what we're trying to do here.
Right.
We're trying to build and have a better relationship with Christ. So,
and it's not so much a matter of fasting is not so much a matter of getting rid of things that are bad for you.
Right.
Right. Like, that's what it ends up being. Like, I'm not going to drink soda. That's a good popular one. I will tell you, I thought about giving up coffee for Lent. I don't know. I don't know if it's going to happen, because I don't know if that's a good thing for anybody.
I'm not going to give up something that's going to make something bad on somebody else.
Well, that's what I'm wondering.
Coffee for me is going to happen.
I will tell you this. I won't call them out, but I will tell you, I had a friend text me this morning, and what they're doing for Lent is, or really during like 40 days of the cross, is they're picking a friend to pray for every day.
That's cool.
So I got a message from him, and I got to be number one. I was so honored that, and good friend, good dude, right? He texted me this morning and said, "Hey, here's what I'm doing. How can I pray for you?" What a great idea. So if you're looking for an idea of something to focus on during this 40 days of the cross, or, Lent, or whatever it is for you, that's a great idea. And you don't have to do what they did and, text that person and be like, "Hey, how can I pray for you specifically?" I think that's the best thing, but pick somebody to pray for.
Yeah. Speaking of Jody Catter, right? She's in our life group, and I think it was her. She gave up social media when we were doing our 21 days of fasting a little while back, and she took her whatever social media icon she was getting rid of and moved it and put the Bible app where it used to be. So when she would have the habit of going and hitting that button, it was pulling up the Bible, and it would remind her, and she was reading the Bible, which is a pretty good idea,
awesome.
I thought. But I don't do social media, so I don't have to worry about that.
Well,
it's just an idea.
The only thing you're missing on social media is Midweek Motivation. It's the only good thing on there, and everything coming from Parkway.
A lot of times I'm part of it, so I don't really miss that either.
That's true. You just get to be here.
I get on YouTube and watch it when I'm not here. So.
Well, there's the hack. If you're getting rid of social media and you still want to be a part of Midweek Motivation, you need to just come on Midweek Motivation.
That's right.
In fact, I'm just going to say it. Carly's not here, so we're just going to do this. Let's just do this. If you want to be on Midweek Motivation, right, you got to kind of come here, right?
Yeah.
So you got to be a little freed up. But if you want to be on Midweek Motivation, text the number on your screen, and we will work it out and get you on here.
We'll talk about whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah, let's just do like full on interview style, I'll wear a suit. I can do like the Jimmy Fallon thing.
I've got plenty of suits.
Right? I think I wore a suit the last time probably over a year ago. It's been a long time since I've worn a suit. I don't think you're going to get me in a tie, though. That's not going to go there. Oh, well, I just got us off track. But for real, if you want to be on the show, text that number on your screen, and we will find a way to make it happen one way or another. But the verse I want to take us to is Matthew 6:16 through 18. And this is Jesus, part of the Sermon on the Mount, the longest recorded sermon of Jesus. And he's talking to people, and he's saying some pretty tough stuff. And one of the things that he shares is about fasting. So I just want to put our minds kind of all in the same spot about what fasting is. Now he's speaking really specifically to the people about fasting a meal, right? Which is really kind of, if you think about it, like very impactful to people that were probably not healthy.
Back then, right?
Right? I mean,
We didn't
these
know
are
where
people,
their next meal was coming from.
right? And Jesus is saying, yeah, just skip one.
Yeah.
You skip a couple. Like, well, right. So if you think fasting a meal is a big deal, which it is for some people, certain health concerns. If you think fasting is a big deal, think about the context in which Jesus is saying this and telling people to fast, right? So Matthew 6:16 through 18 says this, says, when you fast, do not look somber as the hypocrites do, for they disfigure their faces to show others their fasting. Truly, I tell you, they have received their reward in full. But when you fast, put oil on your head, wash your face. Please wash your face. It'll be a good thing for everybody around you. I don't know about oil on my head. Maybe I need to start waxing my head according to Jesus. That was a good rabbit trail. Verse 18, so that it will not be obvious to others that you are fasting, but only to your Father who is unseen, and your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you. Really what Jesus is getting at is I think the interesting thing is he says, when you fast.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't negotiable. Like, you're going to fast. You should do this. I think that's an interesting thing is he's already just assuming that in kind of, I dare say it's just a command.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think it's an assumption. I think he's kind of just commanding us there, like, hey, when you fast.
Do this.
It's like my kids, like, hey, when you clean your room.
You mean cleaning your room is not an option, Dad?
No.
What?
Not in my house.
What? Hey, it's not in my house either, but it's funny how often they think it is.
Oh, yeah. They think it is quite often, but.
Or doing the dishes or turning off a light or flushing the toilet. Yeah. Kids, flush the toilet.
Leaving wrappers on the couch.
Yes, which, by the way, if you're looking for an interesting method to get your kids to turn off the lights in the house, Courtney came up with a great one. I'm not going to put it out there on the internet, but if you're interested, reach out to Courtney on social media or text her if you have her number, and she will fill you in. It's diabolical and awesome. So I don't want it out there because, that's probably not the best thing, but it's good. It's safe. Nobody's hitting our kids, right? But text Courtney.
They're still alive,
right? They are still
That's all
alive,
that matters.
right? They just might be a little poorer. Let's just say it that way. But yeah, so reach out to Courtney. She'll fill you in on that. But or maybe my kids are the only ones that don't turn off lights.
No, my kids never turn off lights.
Okay, good. Well, my kids are in good company.
Ever.
Oh man, how did I get there?
I don't know.
I don't know how I got there.
Because Jesus is the light.
Jesus is the light. Oh, there you go.
He can't ever be turned off.
Right? That's a good one. Hey, we should do a podcast. That's good.
Yeah. See what I did there?
I like that. But this is Jesus in Matthew 6 talking to people, and he's given, let's just call it a command, right? We're going to call it a command. If you disagree, you can disagree, and you can disagree on your own podcast, but we're going to call it a command. Jesus is telling people to fast. I think he's speaking to the people there, and I think he's speaking forward to us, right? But then he also goes a step further and says, look, you need to fast, but don't make a big show out of it, right? Because that misses the point. This is about you and your connection to Jesus and what Jesus wants to do in you and helping you to put your mind not so much on yourself, not so much on, hey, what am I going to eat? What's going on social media? How do I get all my kids everywhere? It's a time to focus on what Jesus wants to do in you, right? And who he is. I think, we don't have time to go down there. That's all right. The other verse I wanted to share with you is, I think it kind of goes along, and it makes me think of a song. But so if you grew up in church, you'll think of this song too as soon as I read it. But it kind of describes that hunger for Jesus that fasting, I think, kind of gives us. So Psalm 42 verse 1 says, "As the deer pants for streams of water, so my soul pants for you, my God." And that's who we think it's David writing it and speaking, but that's kind of what fasting is supposed to help develop in us, right?
Exactly.
That desire, that hope and motivation to know God better, right? And know him on a different level, right? So obviously, my wife and I have been married like almost 15 years. I've known her for 17 years. I understand her very differently than I did 17 years ago. Right?
Absolutely.
And she unfortunately understands me very differently than she did 17 years ago, right? But it's because we have a relationship and we've done work to get to know each other better.
Right.
And that's the same kind of thing that I think God wants to do in us during Lent.
Right.
He wants us to, put some focus or take some focus off of something else, right? Whether it's social media, food, whatever other things, right?
Whatever it is.
But it's a time for you and us to spend time focused on who God is and really what he did for us on the cross.
Well, I think it's important, too, to remind everybody, if you're going to do Lent or any type of fasting just because you think you're supposed to, don't do it.
Yeah, you've already missed it.
Because you're not ready for that step.
Yeah.
Go into it saying, okay, here's what I'm going to cut from my life. And, pray for it. Say, all right, God, what do you want me to fill that with?
Yeah.
What do you want me to do with this? What is my next, anything? What's my next step? Where's my next step in faith?
Yeah.
Anything like that. You've got to go into it with a mind of, okay, I'm going to grow as a Christian. I'm going to grow closer to God and ultimately do what he wants me to do.
Yeah.
So
I was going to say, whatever you're giving up for Lent, you should put in the chat. And I thought about it. I was like,
well,
it's kind of not what I just said.
Matthew.
It's kind of
6,
not what I just read. So
Matthew 6 doesn't tell us that. So
that's true. I felt a little hypocritical to say that.
The one thing I will say about that is that usually I tell somebody.
Yeah.
Just for the accountability factor.
Right.
So somebody is keeping me accountable for my actions.
Yeah.
And I think that's always important. Now, you don't have to, but I choose to tell somebody, what I'm giving up for that.
Yeah.
That way I'm held accountable.
Right. Yeah. Share it with your spouse. Share it with somebody you trust, somebody that's close to you. That I think that's a great call out is to be accountable. Because otherwise, if you don't tell anybody,
yeah,
well, and there's nobody to help hold you
it's
to
like,
it.
hey,
right?
I wasn't giving up soda.
No, I just said I was going to give up coffee on midweek as a joke, right? I'm not actually giving up coffee, which I will tell you, I'm a little undecided on. I keep waffling on it. Even as I was saying, I'm like, well, maybe that's an indication I should give up coffee.
Sounds like a strong indication coming from somebody.
That might be it. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but well, hey, man, good show.
Yeah.
It's good to have you back.
Thank you.
It is.
Thank you. I've missed it here, man.
No offense to anybody else, but it is a better show when you're on.
Thank you.
Right? It's
I
a good thing
appreciate
when you're
that.
around. There's a lot of good shows. Last week,
It is.
I'm going to say about 50-50 on last week. That was a little rough, but
Life has been getting in the way a little bit over the last couple months, man. So I'm glad to be back. I love being here. So much fun. Just laughing with you guys.
oh, Jody says nice save. I can't remember what it was.
Nice
I don't know if it
save
was
on-
about your Valentine's
nice
Day.
save on
Well,
what?
she's talking to you. I don't know. She said nice save, Brandon. I don't know. We got too distracted in good conversation. I think I missed that one, but that's all right. Hey, thanks guys for interacting with us in the chat. Especially thanks for last week, Brandon. I told him in the chat last week, like if I'm riding solo, y'all got to talk to me in the chat. 'Cause then I can't just be talking to myself. So, and it was good. A lot of good interaction today. Make sure you go to parkroanoke.com /off the mountain and be a part of Parkway Off the Mountain. That's coming up the 19th through the 24th. Like I said,
Straight
there's
Street.
tons of ways you can be involved. We're serving a ministry called Straight Street, which if you don't know anything about them, Google them. There's some information on our website about them. They're one of our ministry partners.
They've been ministry partners for a while. So
yeah, great organization.
Yep.
Doing great work. really focused on the youth in our community. So thanks so much for joining us. Make sure you like and share this with somebody. Maybe you can be 502 subscribers on YouTube, but we're so glad that you joined us this week. We hope you have a great week and stay motivated.
1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, when you're feeling down and motivated in the midweek, we got the guys here to make your life complete. Little John, Brandon, Cody, Carly, they're coming in to keep you motivated all week. New episode, same time every week. Don't gotta wait long for the next one to release. So don't go away, sit down, take a seat, enjoy Midweek Motivation with John and Carly. Hey.
Midweek Motivation.
Let's go!